ready, we can get stuff going here. We're going to walk up the meadow, up the canyon. We'll go fairly close to the sheep wagon at one point where we're going to end up at lunch. So if at that point, which will be about 3/4 of a mile from here, if anybody says, "Uncle," you can dodge up the hill and go to the sheep wagon. But we will go up then the other way, going east, and go up on the ridge. That'll be a bit of a climb, but it's not any higher than the top of Indian Hill here. And then we're going to go up, clear up to the base of the bluffs up there. But pretty much on the contour, cleared trails and the whole thing. And we'll take a loopy trail that goes back around, and we'll end up back at the sheep wagon, about a 2.5 mile walk, something like that. Hopefully be there by noon. But I told Gary that, and what we'll do then when we get there, has somebody with us got a cell phone?
I have mine there, but it didn't work. It says no service.
I can go. I can take one.
Okay. Why don't you take one, Jack? Because what I think we'll get a signal up there, and we'll call back to our home phone here for Gary to then bring the pickup up.
Let me see it. Look in the car. Mine left in there.
But if that fails, if we can't go to hold of Gary at 1 o'clock, he will then get in the pickup. He knows where to go and he'll come up. I've got the 4-wheeler up there and to help transport people from the pickup up to the wagon.
I did
and
hear
if that
you speak
fails,
up.
I'll walk down and find Gary.
Should we 2.5 miles total?
This morning is all, yeah.
So we don't need to haul water along.
Jack's got a half gallon of water in that pack there, but if anybody's got little fanny packs of water, it wouldn't hurt. But at the sheep wagon, we've got all sorts of drinks, similar to what you had last night, except for the hard stuff.
No hard stuff.
But lots of soft drinks, lots of fruit and veggies and lunch stuff. And what I thought we'd do is just hang out there, and if people would like to take a longer hike, then we can get up on the bluffs, and then you can really see a view of the Black Hills, and we can get down into the canyons on the other side, if people want to do it. But I thought, let's just leave this afternoon flexible for who wants to do what. If some of you want to come back and go do something else, that's fine. Some of you have not seen the Indian teepee up on the hill, perhaps, and you're welcome to go up there and take a nap, or in the Berber tent, or whatever you'd like to do, or browse through the barns and see all the stuff down there. One thing that I would like to do tomorrow, you all remember the wagon wheels that were out in front that Frank had? That was, my recollection was, there was supposed to be one for each grandchild. Ooh. The only difficulty is there were 15 wagon wheels, and there's only 14 of us. So I don't know what that extra one was. But anyway, those wagon wheels over the years, and Denny, you may remember the hard experience, was it Denny that got to paint them one time?
I got to
dress
among other people.
Yeah, and painting never did it. They finally just melted away. So what I've collected is a bunch of metal wagon wheels, and what I'd like to do is have us have a little exercise of putting them back up and kind of talk about each person as we do. It'd be kind of fun to tell stories about each other as we set them back up.
So they were wooden, the original ones.
They were original.
I remember painting wooden.
If you look at in Retracing Old Trails, Frank's book, there's a picture in there. God, I wish those wagon wheels, instead of being put up there, would have been put in the barn. That wide, solid, stout. You know, they're worth $100 a piece today. Now they're just, well, they're in the barn, but they're very fragile.
You always have something for somebody to do. You remember at my 80th birthday party how you planted the choke cherries
and the plums. Right.
Wow. And they're still growing.
Barbara and I come to visit, and guess what we get to do? Pull out a 1/4 mile of fence post up here.
One time we got to help dig a trench for the
You can market this, you know, you can market it as like a healthy...
Dude ranch.
Well, actually, we want you to pay for this experience.
Yeah, also known as a forced labor camp.
Apparently there's a lot of people don't know about the family connection to Wounded Knee. We wanted to maybe Monday, those who are still here want to run up to Wounded Knee.
Great.
I don't know what the
See
family.
where Charlie stood and
We
watched.
should tell that story when we're sitting down for lunch. Because
We
we
could
don't
do
want
that.
to get on the
Well,
road.
Charlie
Really?
Let's,
Yeah, we could tell that
let's tell
story
that-
at lunch or something today.
stood on the
Maybe
hill.
on the trail.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Or, yeah.
My father had a newspaper article.
About.
Oh, you were. That was just an idea.
Hey, Seth.
Are we ready?
No,
No?
you're gonna Anthony,
We
tell
have
me
the
how you
kids
use it.
loaded
We've never used it.
Anthony, do you need a trunk?
What?
You still need the trunk of the
Here you
car?
go, buddy.
No.
That's gonna get in this one. When that comes to rain.
What, say that again, Jim?
2-inch rain, any logs or anything that falls in the canyon
Oh,
ends up in that trail.
oh my. Then you have to clean it up, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe if
Well, the bigger thing is there's
Yeah, I think there are some extra clothes here. I have a sweater in my backpack. You want that?
should wait for your meal. Hi.
Hey, what's happening?
Hey there. Need help?
I'm done. I'm there.
You're there?
I'm here. Thank you.
You're here. Now, you were there before, but now you're here.
Where are the men when you need them?
Here, wanna.
What do you need a man for? We don't need them.
That's right.
Go like that.
well, that's what
If
we
you
were
get
saying,
down
that's
close enough, you can. Because if you get the head out, because they will come out, but sometimes they don't. And
And it hurts.
then you die.
Well, it's
But
just
then, you know, you remember how we're always told
you're
to use a
scarred.
hot pin.
Or a match to make
You
it
never
back
make it
out.
work, you know.
Now, you do have Rocky Mountain
that's what
Spotted
you were
Fever up
talking
here,
about.
right?
Hi, sweetie patootie.
So, hell,
How's
I'd
it
get
going?
burned.
That was a big hill.
Well, he was.
And the darn thing would still be in
He's
there.
still there, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and worst of all, usually I'd kill him, you know. He'd still be stuck.
Oh,
So then there he is dead, buried in.
Then you have to have surgery.
then you have to have
Cut your
a
arm
funeral
off.
service.
Yeah.
And that's really expensive.
It's a bummer, yeah, right. Expensive too.
Hey, Dennis is having a good ride. I put it in the back of your pack. Hold on.
Hi.
Are we all together?
Here, Jim, let me take this.
I think part of the group split up, didn't they?
I think Laura.
Yeah, Laura took some people that she went.
Oh, she did?
Laura took Carol. and
Hey, are we going on here?
Okay. Let me tell you, the rest of you, what you're going to be seeing here for a little bit, so you'll see what looks like to you a logging operation. The sheep wagon is just over there on the side of the hill. So we're going to go up these canyons now and just kind of a leisurely walk like it was up the canyon. So we're pretty well up. Yeah, we got a little more up here. But anyway, about 8 years ago, Laura and I started thinning the timber because timber in this country is way thicker than it ever has been. You know, these areas burnt and there weren't near the number of trees or the density of trees that there are these days. And therefore, the Yellowstone fires, the Fort Robinson fires, management has kept great green forests, but we're in terrible fire danger. So we started to thin about 8 years ago, and we did what they called a 3-acre patch, which seemed to us like it was about 300, and it took us 2 years to do it. I thought, man, there's no way we're going to get all this ever thinned. And then the Forest Service, U.S. Forest Service, came along with a if you remember the national fire bill a couple of years ago of $2 billion, part of that went to the state for the state to administer thinning and timber stand improvement on private ground adjacent to national forests, and we are. So we leaped into the deal, and tell you how fast it happened. Last August, we heard that the money was available, and I just hadn't gone to see the guy. And a friend of ours, the same guy that did the cutting of the cottonwood log, stopped by the house one Sunday night and said, hey, I want to come out and thin your timber. He says, I've talked to John Overstreet, the state forester, and there's money to do it. So I got home that night. He had told Laura that. So I got home, called him on the phone. I said, well, hell, let's get together with John. So that was Sunday night. I called John. The next morning we walked this whole place. That was Monday. Tuesday morning the chainsaws were running.
Wow.
So, you know.
That's the federal government for you.
Yeah, well, yeah, right, yeah. So we were humming. And so Phil started thinning clear over across the ridges. So this afternoon, for those of you who'd like to hike some more, we can get up on top of the bluffs and go and get some great views and look off the other side. But essentially, the reason for it was to reduce fuel loads. A lot of this dog hair stands where ponderosa pine gets too close together, and trying to take out trees that are too close, or some right behind you that probably should have, more of those should have come out. But a big thing is also reducing ladder fuels, or the fuels that if a fire gets in the grass, it gets up into the lower branches of the tree and then gets up into the crown. And so we haven't really reduced the total fire danger, we've just changed where the fire might occur. Rather than getting in the crowns, it'll be on the ground.
Yeah.
But at least there's a chance of controlling it. Until this melts away, and I'll show you when we get up here a ways, the stuff that Laura and I thinned about 8 years ago, it's nearly melted away. What we would like to do next, when it gets to about that stage, 3, 4, 5 years from now, start doing some little controlled burns.
What do you mean melted away?
Rotted away.
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
Is that when they pile it up in these piles? We've seen that up around Mount Rushmore.
We prefer not to pile it. We've done what's called lop and scatter, knock it on the ground, get it 18 inches or no more from the ground so that it'll rot away.
Okay.
If you pile it and burn it, you're going to get invasive species, noxious weeds, Canada thistle mainly, and we just don't want to do that. The Forest Service, U.S. Forest Service, is piling and burning because Congress, in all their great knowledge of natural resources, has dictated that they want this problem solved in 2 years. It took us 120 years, folks, to get where we are today, and these stands getting too thick, and we're going to solve it in 2 years. Well, you can solve it if you pile it and burn it, and then you're going to, now instead of a fire problem, you got a noxious weed problem. So we've chosen not to do that. District Ranger, the new District Ranger, was with us on the hike a week ago, and we went through, and he says, what's your objective? And I said, reducing fire danger, or fuel loads. And he said, well, I don't think you've done that. And I said, well, I don't have the goal of 2 years to solve the problem. You know, 5 is okay for me. But he's under a bind because Congress is telling him.
At least along, say, a ridge line and making a fire break and prune these.
That's what I did, Dick. The thinner went along and did all the thinning, and then I came along the tops of the ridges and all these trails you'll see that we're on, and I opened the trails up, and I've got a big map back of the house, but there's probably 8 miles, I suppose, of trails in here that would be useful for fire breaks. Yeah. So,
why does piling and burn? How does piling and burning create a noxious weed problem?
Because you sterilize the soil and you got bare ground there for noxious weeds to get started. And weeds, you know, Canada thistle is a wind-borne seed, and so it's here. But if you get a good canopy or a ground cover like this, it's not going to get established. But if you got bare ground, it will. So, in nature, it would land here and it would melt away, right? It would rot away. Yeah, yeah. So, watch as you go along. There is one difference. You're going to see a few things, like this tree right here. The ladder fuel should have been knocked off of this tree. But one of our neighbors has chosen to put a trailer house on top of that ridge over there. And looking right over here at the sheep wagon. So what we did in the thinning is to try to leave probably more density on this ridge right here as a visual barrier. So once we get away from this and get up in the hills, you're going to see where it really got opened up. I think it's beautiful. You know, I just feel safer. You know, I walk through there and I think, oh man, I feel good. Years past, I'd walk up here and I'd say, oh God, you know, if it ever starts, Katie, bar the door. You're not going to do anything.
Is Bob Gartner giving you a seal of approval on this project?
Yeah, he would, I'm sure.
I did one in Rapid City where I was living. It was a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah.
I worked 3 summers felling trees and thinning and pruning. And what do you think, Bob? Well, don't have it very good yet.
No, not thick, not thin enough.
In fact, the Rapid City Fire Department, I told the woman who owned the property, call the fire department up and see if they have any ideas for anything more to do. And they thought it was great, but Bob didn't. He wasn't up to his standard.
Yeah, yeah. The guy he's talking about worked for the state of South Dakota. He's retired. He was a range management person up in Rapid City. Longtime good friend of both of ours.
So how do you maintain it? Like,
that's a good question. A person really needs to keep going through this about every 20 years. So we need another Yellowstone fire here pretty quick, so we'll get more billion-dollar deals. You know, just take a look at the immense. There's 150 acres of timber here. They say that a good thinner can do an acre a day. Well, I discovered I'm a real poor thinner. I was lucky to get a 1/4 acre a day. But this guy that did the thinning, Phil Young, works for the Natural Resource Conservation Service. He was doing damn near 2 acres a day. I mean, this guy is nails and has the right saws. And I mean, he's
One man?
One man. I mean, he's just one-handing it. The tree goes on the ground, and he's just up the tree to the next tree. Guy, tough. All right, here we go.
Well, it was certainly a thought, but no, but then a major change occurred unexpectedly. I got
created by the early logging in the 1930s. The method of logging was by horses. They drag it out by horses, but the way they would keep things under control is that they would build their little roads or skid trails on the contour with a one-bottom plow. They'd go along and just plow one furrow all the way around. And then as they would hook onto the log with a horse, that log would fall into that ditch, and away they'd go. And of course, the more logs they drug out, the wider and wider it got. So they looked like roads. They really weren't roads for vehicles. They just got wider and wider. They're really in the more open places under the juniper trees. And really what the thinning has done is open it up, and now you can see a lot of chokecherry in there. And what they say, what other people have done some thinning have said, is that chokecherry is just going to boom. It's just going to be solid chokecherry underneath all of this. Which of course, great deer habitat, good browse.
Oh yeah.
how's chokecherry as a tinder, as a
Humans?
starter? Yeah. I mean, is it a danger to have a lot of chokecherry?
No. Well, no. It can't be. It has prussic acid in it, so it can cause prussic acid poisoning. But that only happens after a frost. It's the same thing with Sudan grass. A frost, wilted leaves, wilted berries would do that.
But I mean, in terms of like just the dead material being the fire starter.
Fire.
If you don't want to have tinder underneath your trees, if you have a bunch of chokecherries, are you okay?
When it matures, those leaves stay on such a short period of time. In the fall, they're going to be gone.
Okay, so it's safe.
It's pretty safe. Yeah.
I don't know.
Because it's an evergreen, you know, that stuff's slow to burn when it's green. It'd be a little window in the fall, a couple of weeks when it's dry. That is groundnut, Soralia, groundnut. It's a common name.
We saw some fallen ones on the trail.
Well, there's been quite a bit along there.
Kind of like grapes or something.
They're full of water.
Yeah, there are 4 species in this genus. Soralia is the genus, or the genus.
C or in
P. P-S-O-R-A-L-E-A. Soralia. This is groundnut Soralia. I can't remember the other part of the common name. Yeah.
The animals eat it?
I don't think much.
And
there's another one, breadroot scurf pea, and it has a big, heavy root that the Native Americans use. As a root.
And it grows into a big gourd around New Mexico a lot. That they call...
There are quite a few others. There's you may be thinking of a big old bushy thing, morning glory kind of a thing. And
no, it's a vine. It snakes
along.
Okay. What are those called, Kathleen? They call them Navajo squash tomato or Navajo something.
Probably
a
lot of
it's
them
probably
on the
not
side
different.
of the highway. And
these are kind of the northern Great Plains.
The yucca, or whatever you call it. What is a soapweed? Is that the same thing?
Same thing.
And is the root of the yucca also called manioc?
I think that's a different plant.
Really?
Yeah, but now I'm not sure. I've never heard it called manioc. I've heard manioc, but I relate that to Africa, actually.
Yeah,
well, it's a root crop.
Right.
I mean,
I think it's the root of the yucca.
They're big. They're about that big around, but they're hard. They're not.
Well, I think
but
the
you grate it
manioc
up,
is
and that's
hard.
what you
Yeah,
make.
you got to
It's also known as tapioca.
Yeah. Oh, God, you
Isn't that also tapioca?
It's certainly related. I'm not sure that manioc and tapioca are the same, but they're
There's another.
There's another word for that root, though.
Yeah.
I bought it not long ago and looked it up, and
it was soapweed or yucca?
It was yucca. It said it was the yucca root, but it seemed
this is yucca.
There's another.
Yeah, I mean there's
another word. There's another root like that, not manioc, something else in Africa.
Yeah. Well, now there, you know, cassava and cassava is the white one, and then there's another one that's very similar to our sweet. What do you call it?
Sweet potato?
Sweet potato. Yams. Yams and cassava. Yeah.
Those are soft.
Hello.
Because with they're not braided up and you make a flour.
A yam is not soft when you buy it. I mean, after you put it in the oven for an hour and a half, it is. But
it's like a
potato. They're a lot smaller.
Yeah, even
the manioc root can be.
Yeah,
big.
They can be.
All right.
A yam is, you know, about the size of a sweet potato.
This is false alfalfa, but another Cerealia. So that's the third one.
This one, but without any of the...
Yeah, there doesn't have the above ground or the below ground. And then the fourth one is a lemon skirt pea.
Hey, Jim?
Groundnut skirt pea, the one you just had. This is false alfalfa, the other is lemon skirt pea.
S-C-U-R-F?
Skirt, S-U-R-F.
Oh, skirt, not skirt.
S-C-U-R-F.
They're prettier ones I've seen than that.
I know, but they're...
That's where we got our muddling. Well, that's what they use to...
These are also in the family of cheatgrass. That happens to be Japanese brome. That's cheatgrass, but they're both in the bromus genus.
And they're classified as noxious weeds?
They're introduced. They are not on the state noxious weed list, but they're introduced.
What is it? I mean, what does a weed have to do to be noxious?
It's undesirable. It might be poisonous. It might be very aggressive. It just depends on the characteristic of the plant.
So are there
there's
weeds?
a lot of different reasons. The state of Nebraska only has 6 plants that are on the state noxious weed list, and cheatgrass is not one of them. It's on a undesirable or an invasive species list. This plant right here is a native. This is western wheatgrass. This one right here is Kentucky bluegrass. As compared to what the name says, Kentucky bluegrass is not native to the United States. It's introduced from Europe. But it's so predominant that it's just about managed as a native. This one right in front of us, this little kind of waxy looking one right here, is green needle grass. And when we come to some needle and thread, I'll show you it. They're 2 very closely related ones.
Did you already talk about this one?
That's Kentucky bluegrass.
Same as this.
This one, this bluish colored one, western wheatgrass. There's gobs of them. I'll try to watch it.
Are they all in the same family?
They're all in the Poaceae family.
That's the
But
grass.
they're all different. They're all different.
Somebody spells it that way?
Yeah, a range person. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. That's why it was a good idea several years ago that we might take some general studies classes, here and there.
Jim, is that considered a noxious weed?
No, it's a native.
Okay.
But you can chase your relatives now.
It's noxious when you use it that way.
Yeah. Use it against your brothers and sisters.
It's going to
Like
noxious,
a spear.
noxious brothers.
We used to have it in Colorado.
That's okay. I'm not going to show my hand, so it won't appear that way.
Just a dandelion.
This gets passed to Micah as a gift from Anthony. Oh. Actually, it's a gift from Mother Nature.
Nice.
As we all are. What, snakes?
Snakes?
They're small, aren't they, timber rabbits?
They're that long.
Oh, no?
They can get a good size.
No.
I was hauling salt to cows about 5 years ago.
They are here.
And the way I do it, it's a mixture of salt and water. So I had a 50-pound bag, took it up to the feeder, dumped it off. First I hauled the feeder up, dumped it in the spot I wanted, went back to pick up, got the bag of salt, hauled it up to the feeder, went back, got the mineral, got about 4 feet from the feeder, right on the same place I'd going, went by a yucca plant and there was a snake. Rattlesnake. I'd gone by him 5 times already, you know.
You didn't see him.
We just watched him.
And he didn't rattle.
No, didn't do a thing.
Jim, we've seen these big things look like huge dandelions. What are they? About the size of a baseball.
Yeah, you brought one back. You had one. I think somebody did.
No, Anthony had one that was blowing him out.
Dandelion going to seed.
Big spherical.
Is that a thistle?
No, it's a milk fence. It's in the milkweed family, but I can't remember the name of it right now. I know what you mean. It gets to be a real ball.
Yeah, and they're around. We've seen a bunch of them.
Like Laura would know it. I'm terrible at the posies. I know the grass, the posies are terrible. This is a sage, Louisiana sage wort.
It smells so good.
That's the sage, huh? Yeah. It's a nice looking plant.
Come for a retreat. Watch this logging trail right along here that's going. How defined it is.
So, Jim, you want us to clear all these down logs this afternoon?
Pardon me? Okay.
Is our task in the afternoon is to clear all the down timber?
Yeah, this is it. Although you picked the right spot. In fact, I'm glad you mentioned that. Let me get up here a minute and I'll show you.
What do you say? That's a right
What? I suggested our afternoon's work.
Huh? What's that?
Are you the kid in school who always said, "Teacher, you forgot to assign us homework"?
That's right.
What was it you suggested we do?
Clear all this down timber.
Oh, there we go.
Get it back to the house.
Oh, yeah. Have a bonfire?
I meant to point this out a bit ago.
Oh, he's awake again.
Is he nodding a little?
He was a minute ago,
yeah. But now he's up again.
As you walk right through this little section, actually from where we started identifying grasses and plants to here, this is the area that we thinned, Laura and I did about 8 years ago. Look at these logs, look at these stumps, look how that stuff is melted down. This was a terribly dense stand. You know some of those places where we saw logs just right next to each other?
Yeah.
This is what this looked like 6 years ago.
Oh, really?
So look how fast it goes. So this, we'd like to wait about this length of time and then try a control burn. Run a fire through here, get rid of that, but mainly trying to get rid of this.
Oh,
Because that's then the fire danger problem left. So that you can replace this and then get the grass cover to be a better ground cover, actually, a better soil protector.
You do a controlled burn out in a place like this, you get a lot of people involved to...
Don't know.
I mean, it seems so
Nobody's done it. Yeah.
Get some water.
Everybody's scared to death to do it. Forest Service is terrified to do it, but they're going to do it. And we've said that we'd like to be the guinea pig. We think we've got some places over against these canyons, just the other side of this ridge. Prevailing winds are from the northwest, and that we could burn up against that rock. And once you get an area burned, then you can start burning against burns. And the more you burn, the safer you are. It's the first one that's
because
dicey.
Later burns, the first burn area acts as a fire wall, sort of. Huh.
So we'd like to try it in real little patches. When I mean little, I'm talking an acre. An acre, 3 acres, 5 acres.
And it's permitted, probably. You get a permit
Yeah,
for it?
well, I guess. I haven't done that. I suppose there would be, yeah.
Bill was asking about predators. What sort of predators do you have here?
Lots of coyotes, mountain lions, occasional, a lot of bobcats, fair amount of bobcats.
Rattlesnakes.
Rattlesnakes.
Owls.
Humans. Owls. Yeah.
Bear?
No bear. Yeah. Well, unless they're lost. Lost bears.
Tourist bears.
Yeah. You can tell the cameras around their neck and khaki shirts and stuff.
Dockers.
Yeah, the dockers. That gives me. Oh, wow.
I was working with the thought that they needed a lot of cover, but look at where they've chosen to bed. Open areas. They want to get up on a hillside where they can see down.
Deers. I guess bedding areas for deer. The bedding areas for deers. Deer beds. Yeah, there you go. Deer beds.
They can see, but they can hear too. I mean, there's deer a mile from here that can hear us.
They're staying a mile away, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Maybe I should be up
It's the Arnie cam.
Yeah. Well, it makes it more interesting. It smells good in here, doesn't it? All that pine.
Hauling some of this logging stuff out of this stuff that's on the ground from thinning, which reminds me, I should have mentioned about logging and why we have not chosen to log this and timber it. If you look up this slope and what we've just come through, this is some excellent timber. I mean, this is mature stuff. A lot of it is flat topped. It's ready to be logged, and it's either going to, you either remove it by logging or nature's going to remove it for you by bug kills or by fire or something else. So it is a smart idea to log it. And in ponderosa pine, it's selective cut. You take a tree, you leave replacement trees. But we've chosen not to do it because we don't want to see the damage that is going to be caused by skid trails and landings and all and trucks and all that kind of stuff. Even though there is equipment today that you hardly see anything left behind, but this is pretty steep country even for that newer modern equipment. But our thought is, if we can get this thinned and open it up and let things really grow, realizing that some of the stands like this on this hillside are going to be old decadent trees, are going to be on the ground in 50 years from now. If you look at the advancement in logging equipment that's occurred over the last 50 years, I think in the next 50 years from now, you're going to have equipment that you'd pluck trees out of here, you'd never know anybody was here. So that's kind of our thought, is let's not log now. When these guys are needing beer money, well, they'll have equipment, they can get it out of here.
What's lifted out, airlifted?
Pardon me?
What are the equipment advances that?
What it used to be, well, it was horses. Actually, horses are probably the most environmentally safe of anything. And then came along D9 cats. But the newer stuff is rubber-tired skidders, and some of the newer stuff are machines that come up and have a saw right on the front, and they grab a hold of the tree, cut the tree off, lay it on the ground, and usually then they have a bunch skidder that'll come behind them. And so the cutter, there's no chainsaw anymore. This machine had come up kind of like a big backhoe, Seth, and grab a hold of the tree, cut it off, and stack 4 or 5 logs. And then a grapple skidder will come along, grab a whole bunch, and essentially lift most of the tree up to drag it out to a landing where the whole tree is dumped. And then there's a limber that is there at that landing that just picks up the tree and just shoves it down the length of this. Well, actually the saws go up along the trunk with radar guided, and just knock all the limbs off. So all the limbs are in one spot and they burn that pile. So in the woods you really see very little, but this is too steep still for that. Pardon me? You could, but yeah, but
It'd still tear things up pretty good.
The problem with cable, you're right, but cable logging, you still got to have the landing at the bottom, so they're going to have a cat or something that gets there.
Well, that's why I say I don't know what's on top. If you could just cut them out,
yeah, you couldn't. It's a rim rock there. You'd have to be from the bottom. So
Yeah.
slope is the problem here. Yeah.
Maybe a lot of all at once.
Yeah. And they're wasting a lot of money on helicopters.
I think that's a really good idea.